Tabletop Time.
I'm Jazza.
And I'm Dave.
And this video is a very special one because we have a very exciting announcement. We're working on a game system. It's called Gateway Roleplay. I'm very excited.
We're not pregnant.
No.
It's a game system.
Well, we're trying to birth something special. It's gestating.
So Gateway.
We don't know how it's
What
going
is
to turn
it?
out.
Jazz is going to tell
But
you.
we know the daddies. So let's jump into it. Gateway Roleplay. What is it and why are we making it? Is the first thing I want to jump into. A lot of you know that we've been using Cogent for many years. A lot of channels out there use Dungeons and Dragons. There are lots of systems out there in general. Basically, though, one of the problems that they all have is they tend to lean in one direction or the other and be really good at the role play stuff, which Cogent is, and we're a storytelling channel, so it's been really good for us here, but has lacked in combat. D&D doesn't really have many mechanics for role play. Really comprehensive combat, so much so that it's a little overwhelming to beginners. We are developing Gateway Roleplay to be a system that is satisfying in the way you can deliver nuanced and exciting roleplay.
So while games do, of course, have roles allowing you to do things, they don't really reward and focus on both elements, combat and roleplay, equally. And they tend to be better at one than the other. But we're trying to make a system that has some crunchy and some deep and balanced combat and progression, as well as the roleplay that we're sort of known for here. So it should have the depth that you're looking for in terms of classes and combat, but not sacrifice the flexibility in the system.
We want you to be able to make characters that you want to play, you're not inhibited by the system that you're playing in. So a system that has the prioritization of fun with martial classes, but not at the expense of wizards having cool systems. Usually martial classes can be quite boring. We're going to get into some detail later in this video, but suffice it to say, this is all a prototype. We'll get to the disclaimers later, but we're in the elevated pitch area right now.
One of the big things that is really important to us as people who like to play in all different settings is, of course, that Gateway is a really fantastic setting for home brewing with systems in place that are really easy for either creating your own functional systems to add into the game or to cherry pick your favorite parts of different things that we make and basically build out your own worlds with that. So our goal is really to make a game that is super flexible. It's not just seated in something like medieval fantasy, but you can play science fiction games, steampunk, you can play gritty noir, vampire. The choices are pretty much endless.
Now, this is the vision. We have a prototype. So it's worth saying that this is going to evolve quite a lot, and we're going to go through stuff as we have it currently, but this is so we can have a video that we point people to in the description of future sessions, because from now on, we're going to be storytelling using our Gateway Roleplay prototype and using our storytelling videos and campaigns to refine that into a beautifully crafted product. But this video will serve as a place for newcomers when they're not sure what system we're playing with. We can point them here and say, this is the system we're using. Here's the basics of how it works. And we want to share that with you. But with the asterisk, it's in development. So as major changes unfold, patrons are the first to know about it. In fact, are directly in line with the feedback, and we share weekly updates and all of the assets we're working on for the prototype and then soon the alpha will be shared to our patrons on the tier and up that supports our game dev. So go check that out. It's a huge support to our content. You will get the character sheets, the card, the like roll tables, whatever we're working on. We'll share it so people can see it, maybe play with it, and give us feedback.
We'll periodically be releasing to those supporters on our Patreon, basically the stuff we develop as we develop it for you to help us playtest. But we're also, to the wider patrons and all of our patrons, going to be releasing updates, sort of private updates there. But so we'll get like sort of every couple of months something for everyone, but there will be a tier specific to basically being deeply involved in the production of this and getting all the inside information. Dev blogs. We've been doing like a 1 to 2 hour dev blog every week that we've been putting on Patreon for the last few weeks, which is really cool.
A lot of cool stuff there. So the main thing is this is a prototype, but we want to share a bit of detail with you moving forward. GatewayRoleplay.com, if you're interested, is a place where you will be able to hopefully sign up to be notified if we make major announcements. At the moment, there's nothing there, but by the time this video comes out, hopefully there's a little sign up or something, but it will be the home of this place. So go check it out. And I hope like someone checks this out in a year. Maybe there's some cool Kickstarter happening there. Who knows?
That would be exciting.
Yeah. Well, that's all the let's get started stuff. So
That is.
let's get started.
Let's do it.
And where do we start with any role play system, Dave?
It's this thing, isn't it?
It is. It's character sheet. Let's go.
Is it this thing?
Oh my God, it might be. I don't know if it'll stay that thing. We'll find out.
Yeah, this is the current thing. Obviously, it's a prototype, so things are changing. Positions on the sheet are changing. But
Fairly regularly, but there are core things. So we're not going to get stuck in the details because the details are the first things to change. But there are core elements that we know we love and that are special to this system. Starting off with the way attributes, traits, and skills work. Would you mind zooming in for me a little bit there, Dave?
Enhance.
So the way this works is they're sort of sub-nested. Attributes are the top elements. Mind and body are your core attributes, and you can train in your mind or you can train in your body, and then that will sort of trickle down essentially. The next tier under, so nested within mind, you have intelligence, charisma, and wisdom. Nested within body, you have strength, reflexes, and finesse. Within each of those traits, so the traits are nested in the attributes. Within those traits are 3 skills each. So you have a total of 18 skills, and the skills are what players can use in their games to choose how to act in the world and engage in the environments and stuff.
And that just covers the core, the pieces that everything has in common. But we also have something called training. And training is really exciting because we're not, at this stage, as a prototype, we are not introducing classes into the game. Instead, we have training representing the fact that you can combine any number of different things that your character has learned and the extent to which they've learnt it into your character, which means that, for example, a type of training might be a weapon training where you know how to use swords or you know how to use blunt weapons. But it could also be a school of magic if you're playing in a high fantasy setting, or even something more sort of esoteric as we continue to develop. Maybe there's a tree for archiving nobility. Who knows? I don't know many people would want to play that, but it could happen.
It's also the homebrew home. That's really where like you're going to live and breathe as a homebrewer. And all these things are sort of designed to work together in a way that even if you scroll up just for a little bit, the balance will sort of be refined over time. But the idea is your mind and body, your attributes make up your spirit, which is basically the resource you spend in combat for epic moments, and HP, which is of course your health. Armor is based on equipment and all the gritty stuff. The other thing I sort of missed out briefly was that within mind and body, you have these little expendable treats called knack and grit. That gives you little things you can spend and then recover as you play to give you a little bit more control over key story moments you think really matter.
They're sort of akin to Destiny in Cogent or Inspiration in D&D, but they have a specific function and you actually get one back every day that you get to pick which one it is. There are other ways to restore them, but the main point is it's kind of like inbuilt. You get your moment to play your cards and use it and feel good about, not dying or something.
Yeah. So that's the really surface level, how you build the core stats of a character out in terms of where they go. The numbers we're not going to go into because they'll adapt over time and we're refining that. But if we scroll a little further down the character sheet.
Feet?
Well,
wow.
What's going to be there?
Feats, in fact.
Multiple feet.
Yes. So another great way to make your character
People
your character
like that.
is effectively
I'm sorry.
these are passives, things that you can buy or abilities that kind of affect the way your game experience is. Let's say you're born being unreasonably, ridiculously good looking. Well, that's going to play into how people perceive you in the world and will give you sort of a characterful way of playing. But these feats can also include bonuses to how you play or ways to overcome certain limitations that the game has as base. For example, moving slowly in heavy armor can be sort of made up for with one of these feats.
Now, we've sort of alluded to things that can be gotten and characters that can be built and progressed. If you scroll a little down, this is all, again, work in progress.
Well, that was almost too far down.
We are a system that encourages and, in fact, will mechanize in a really comfortable way XP experience. You will, after every gaming session, earn at least 1 point of experience, and there will be paths to earn couple more if you really get invested and proactive in your role play, and this will be your currency as a player to progress your character, and you will be able to spend this however you would like to advance your character. Now, obviously, learning a new skill is going to be cheaper to start off with, and that's something we're really excited about because there's going to be lots of trees of skills that are going to be really compelling and fun, and there's no reason to not try a few things to get a sort of flavor for where you want to go. It's not going to be super punishing if you spend some points early in some places that you don't end up following more. But that was a spicy Dave, wide-eyed.
You know we're in active dev when you just gave me a brainwave, and I'm going to make a note to bring up later in our dev chat.
Welcome to every day at the studio. Just those eyes widen as like random conversations take
I'm just
place.
writing. You keep going. I'm just quickly writing this down.
I'm very excited about this because there are some lessons that I've learned having developed Kojin roleplay that there was some ideology in having a progression-less system that focused on narrative that we actually learned in playing a game is missing. We really want to bring that in, but we want to do it in a way that feels free, flexible, fun, but also keeps the heart of the system in role play, which is where we're going to go next. So that's the brief overview of the role play. Of the character sheet. Let's talk about role play.
Okay.
Specifically, a little bit of theater of the mind. Shall we?
Well, first we need to talk about how you roll
Apparently
dice.
it's espionage.
You skipped a tiny little bit.
Okay, I'm
All
gonna.
right. You skipped that little bit.
So we'll scroll back up.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're good.
Now that is sorry.
Do you want it or do I want it?
You go for
it's
it.
blue.
It's
so
yours.
I thought.
Go.
Yeah. Wait, is blue you or me? I'm confused.
Blue's you.
Okay, it's blue.
Yeah.
Okay, guess what, everyone? We have notes. All right, we're going from here.
Yeah.
So we've got our training, we've got our skills, we've got our traits. Well, something that's really cool about Gateway is that all the roles in the game are derived in the same way, and that is that you pair either a skill or training with a trait. You get these two groups of numbers, add them together and roll it. And this is really cool because so many game systems, a lot of new players can really get tripped up and confused when you sort of introduce 5 different ways to roll dice. You've got to make a different roll to do damage using different dice. You roll a different roll to hit using different dice. You roll a different roll to not take damage. There's so many different
the
rolls.
dice you roll is calculated from 2 other things that are added together, and you add a number.
Everything will be a single digit number added to a single digit number rolled. That's it.
That's it.
Which is really exciting.
So it's a dice pool system like Kojin. So that's probably one of the main points of familiarity. But otherwise, there's a lot of differences for those familiar with Kojin. So we're going to jump into that a little bit. But we're going to start off with a brief example of some skill-based role-playing in a bit of theater of the mind. Was that dramatic enough?
It was very dramatic.
Okay, good. Cool. It should be, because theater of the mind is drama, basically drama class. Okay,
what
take
are we
it away.
doing?
You're the GM. Let's do it. Let's play some role play, man.
All right.
You don't want to.
Let's do it. Oh, let me.
Did you want prep time, GM? Is that?
Woof. All
He
right.
doesn't need prep time. You got this.
So I'm thinking, well, your characters, you got to have more characters. You're playing as a whole party. You got 2 people.
For the sake of our presentation, I will be a heroic fightress with a sword and a shield, and a kooky wizard with a
Okay.
staff who knows some spells.
Well, you have been ordered by Count Reginald to go and deal with a nasty kobold infestation. They're in a dank cave to the west of town. It's cold, it's damp, and it's miserable. But you have heard that there are many lookouts on the way up to their camp. You haven't spotted them and you're not sure exactly where they are. But there are a few ways you could take this approach. Would you like to take the quiet approach or kind of go in loud and proud?
I think I need to go quiet. I'm going to sneak my way in. I'm going to use my sneak, but they're both going to have to sneak.
Okay.
I'm hoping it's a chill environment. I'm not going to get caught out.
Okay. Well, you're using your stealth here. And I'm going to say, looking at the ley lines of the hills, I'm going to get you to pair it with your wisdom as you sort of intuit your way around, looking for sort of valleys where the wind isn't going to pick up your scent or where they won't have lines of sight, as you attempt to basically navigate the best path to the entrance of the cave.
Okay, well, my fighter has 3 stealth, but 2 wisdom. However, my wizard has 2 stealth and 3 wisdom. So they actually have the same
5
roll.
each.
Okay, let's do this. Wizard first.
Oh, and the challenge level for this is 2.
Thank you.
Challenge is 2.
Okay.
The kobolds
I got 3
are not
with my
particularly
wizard.
aware. Okay.
Sorry, I'm just jumping
That's
the
a
gun. I'm
success.
just so excited, Dave. All right, and now my fighter. Just beat
2
it.
just passed. The 2 of you managed to sneak, as far as you're aware, undetected. And it seemed a little bit easy. You can faintly hear the sounds of a small lizard creature sort of snoozing and snoring into the night sky. With a little bit more work and quiet maneuvering, you manage to wake. No, you don't wake any of them. You're sneaky. You manage to make your way up towards a large wooden door with an old steel handle, a locked handle with a keyhole in it. It doesn't
I'm
appear
just
to
going
be.
to try the door.
Try the
quietly.
door?
Yeah.
It's
Nothing.
locked. There is the sound of it doesn't turn.
Neither my fighter nor my wizard are equipped to pick a lock, but I'm gonna try.
Okay.
I'm gonna pick a lock. I'm gonna use my let's go deft of hand skill.
Okay.
My wizard is actually my most deft of hand with 3.
Ooh.
So and I'm just gonna have to try and. I actually don't have much on me. Maybe before my deft of hand, I'm gonna find something in my satchel. I want to see if I have some sticks or twigs or a wand or I don't know. Is there something I can?
You could try and stick a wand in there, but I don't know that that's going to be good for the wand.
I'm really caught without equipment.
You've got like a key for a different door, and you've got a hairpin for your long flowing mane.
I'll use what I got with deft of hand.
Okay, so deft of hand. Now, this lock is trickier than you would have instantly thought, and it seems to have a latch. It's basically you need to be really fast. So I'm going to get you to roll with reflexes to try and get those pins up and lock it in.
Okay, he's good. I've got 1 reflex. So this is-
It's your
What's
your
my
old
challenge
crickety
level?
bones.
Yeah.
Challenge level for this is 3.
okay, 4 dice. I don't like my odds. No.
New 2 successes. You hear a and you pull it out, and you just can't make any headway, and the lock is solid. But even as you pull the key out, you feel a breeze, the sort of air rushing in and out of the cave through these large gaps in the rotten wooden planks of this old, moist wooden door to this cave.
I turn to the fighter and say, I believe I am of no use here. Perhaps, and I look my companion up and down, the sturdier among us could make a show of this door. And I step back. I step forward, looking at the door as a fighter with a lot of strength in me. See what
Okay.
I'm doing here? So I'm doing
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
Very well. I shall make quick work of this rotting door with power, my skill.
Okay.
I got 4 power.
Well, I'm going to get you to roll power with...
I say the fighter has 4
The
power.
fighter
I
has
should be
4
clear.
power.
We also haven't specified the way the dice pool system works just because we're assuming people know Cogent.
Yeah, that's true.
The
We
way
should.
we're doing this is let's say you have a dice pool of 4 dice. Anything above a 4 and a 4 and above, 4, 5, 6 is a success. Anything that's 1, 2, 3 is a failure. So when I roll these 4 dice, that is 2 successes and 2 failures. that is how we're doing those rolls. Just thought I'd point that out. So I've got 4 power.
So there's nothing tricky about this door. It is rotten and wooden, and you're just going to need your strength to overcome it. So you can pair power with strength,
Okay, well,
which is something you're
I
strong
got
at.
4 power.
Challenge
I've got
level
4
is
strength.
3.
I have 8 dice. I'm going to smash this little one down. Bam. That, okay, there
Challenge
you go.
level 3, and you
my
got
God.
6.
Yeah.
There are splinters of moldy wood that explode all over the room as your massive sword just makes short work of it, smashes it apart. And the door is laying open to you. But as the clattering sound of wood smashes through the inside of the cave, you hear the snarling sounds of dozens of little kobolds waking up and drawing blades.
That, Dave, sounds like combat might be about to begin. Oh boy. Well, let's duck away from Theatre of the Mind because combat's going to be a bit of a thing we want to lay some groundwork for to discuss. But that was a demo of some role play. That's how the roles work. I pick the skills, you pair it with a trait, I make the roll, you assign a challenge level. And then also it's worth mentioning that if I'm rolling against an NPC or a person, let's say for being detected, I'm sneaking and there is someone I'm sneaking around or even another player, the roll will be not against another roll, it will be against a trait of theirs.
Yep.
Or a skill.
Yep.
It's all in the works, but it might be against their acuity. So a stealth against their acuity.
We've got thoughts. It's something that
Yeah,
we're working on.
it's
It's a
in
prototype.
dev.
There
All
are
right.
multiple ways to do it, and maybe there'll be little traits that some enemies have that make them more alert and get bonuses or rerolls or force rerolls. Who knows?
Cool.
The sky is the limit.
It is. And it's only just getting started because combat is juicy. Let's have some fun, shall we?
Too long?
Okay. Ready? Combat.
Yes, it's time to talk about combat, and combat is something I feel very goodly about. That was really well said. That
It
was
was.
well said. I feel very.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
I still don't know how to say
don't know
this
if that's
sentence.
a compliment.
Yeah.
Because I can't
Yeah.
say a lot
Combat's
of things well.
very
but
important to me.
That was better.
So,
The second time.
combat in our system is made up of a few things. One of those is, of course, the equipment that you use. And something that we're striving for is to make sure equipment is more interesting and usable than just a single number on a piece of paper. So we've broken down core weapons into loosed categories, within which category there are multiple different ways of fighting. So a good example here would be swords, who are generally characterized as being able to fight multiple enemies with some of their abilities and special techniques. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, we also have blunt weapons, things like maces, which are characterized by their sort of debuffing ability and ability to permanently destroy armor on armored characters and really give a bit of a team play edge, while also still being pretty brutal.
Okay. Now let's get a little granular, Dave. Let's say, let's go away from our roleplay example that we've been running so far,
Yep.
right? Let's take my heroic fighter, for example. Now let's say I have a sword that does 3 damage. In another universe, I have a mace that does 3 damage, right? And let's say I have 3 points of training in the one universe with the sword and 3 points of training in the other universe with the mace, right? How does it work with either? What's the difference?
In
Right?
another
Is it going to be the same?
In another different system, let's say like your mace did like D8 damage and your other one did D8 damage. They'd be exactly the same.
That sounds
Oh, sorry.
Really?
One of them, no, what they do a different damage type, and of the 400 different creatures, one creature cares about that damage type. So 1 in 400 chance
Okay.
of being a bit
All right.
different. Yeah.
I love that.
Sorry,
I
I'm
love
salty.
when I was gonna say Dave has like this mode. He just like switches when you know he's talking about the things he's pissed about in D&D.
It's my sassy mode. I'm
It's
so sassy.
amazing. So we are so excited with some of the stuff we're doing with combat. That means that whatever path you choose is going to feel like a unique flavor fitting to the weapon and your style, but not locking you into something you may not want. Show me to do it. Sword. Well, let's start off with how we might calculate a combat roll.
Okay, exactly the same way as we calculate every other roll. The difference is where we get the numbers. So where we
I have 3 in sword training.
You've got
That's
3
my
in sword
skill.
training. Okay. So you would pair that with a trait. Where do you get that trait from? The weapon. So something really fun here is that you can be trained in swords, but a claymore is going to pair with a different trait than a rapier. So even if you're well talented in swords, you may need different physical attributes or physical skills in order to best use them or effectively use them. But it doesn't just end there. There can be some really interesting combinations with magic equipment and even some, as we get up to things like firearms, that might require a bit of intelligence to use.
Okay, so this is where it starts to divert, and it's going to continue to. But in our 2 universes, let's say my sword fighter with 3 skills in the sword has 3 points in reflexes, and the long sword requires reflexes.
Sure.
Let's say my mace wielder in that universe, she has 3 points in mace and 2 points in strength, right? That is what that mace requires for the combat roll. So in the sword universe, bless you.
Thanks, Murray.
In the sword universe, did I do 3 plus 3?
You did 3 plus 3.
Okay,
It's 6.
6
Sword
and
user
5.
has 6 dice.
We've
Mace user
started
has
to
5
split.
dice.
Not that wild.
Yeah.
It's 1 dice difference. Where do we go from here, sir?
Well, I mean, the mace user is just kind of worse at using the mace than the sword person because they're not as strong in that instance. But
I
that's
don't
just where
want to play that character now. That's not as cool as +1
Oh,
dice.
have you considered using a flail? It might match your attributes better and your traits better.
Cool.
So then you could find something that's a better match for your character.
Okay, so let's say in these 2 universes, I have someone with the stats and the weapon that equate to 6 dice in my combat roll. So in the sword universe, I have 3 points in my sword skill, 3 points in reflexes, for example. In the other universe, I have 3 points in my mace skill and 3 points in strength, which the mace requires. What's the big difference? They both have 6 dice in my combat roll.
So each of these weapons unlocks an entire tree of abilities that you can unlock and use. And these abilities can be used in much the same way as other game systems where you write them on your character sheet and you can use them. We also have reference cards that will allow for easier play and quicker play that make it really easy so you always know what's available to you. So in this particular example, the mace wielder may want to use their standard attack, their generic skill, which is being showed on screen right now, which is Pummel Armor. Pummel Armor is a attack that basically makes it easier for the mace user to hit their target. And when they hit, they do reduce damage, but they permanently reduce the armor of the person they're fighting.
Whoa, that's interesting. And that's just the first basic attack. Sorry for my inattentiveness here as I switch to a clearer shot. There you go. So this is an example of what a card might look like. Again, this is all a prototype. The Pummel Armor card, which is the mace card. Then the example of the first card you can get with the sword tree, wide slashes.
So this allows you to target multiple enemies and deal damage to multiple enemies. With the more enemies you target, reducing your hit roll, making it less likely to hit. So basically, in this instance, even a fairly untrained or new person with either of these weapons, their basic attack options, while they do have just generic attack options, they also have already unlocked some pretty cool talents they can do regularly. And guess what? You know what's really fun? If I'm leveled in both, I can just have a mace in one hand and a sword in the other and get both of these things.
You can be both people in both universes.
Yeah.
Take 1 XP or whatever it costs, put a point in maces, and you have that card, Pummel Armor. You can unlock the flavor of a weapon tree very quickly. But then it will go deeper and there'll be a lot of fun and modularity. Now, we have jumped the gun a little bit. We've jumped straight to where it starts to differ. We have a couple of basic attack cards, so it might be worth showing that to sort of show how one of the things that we're actually avoiding doing very intentionally is players being able to say, and then I attack.
Yeah, we really want to give people options and encourage people to think about what they're doing, but in a really easy way. You don't get bogged down in decision paralysis. It's pretty clear, but everyone should be kind of doing things, having a bit of control over how they play. It is very worth saying we are showing you cards because they're very visual. They're very visual and easy to show you, but you don't need them. You can just use
intend to
these
make a
online.
game that
Online, whatever.
Follow the rule book, and hopefully in a future we can support things like print and play where people can make their own cards, or literally having blank cards so people can invent and homebrew. But let's start with the absolute basics, bare minimums.
So these are our bare minimum combat cards for fighting. You can either choose to fight cautiously or recklessly. And both ones basically affecting your roll in a fairly simple way. One making you more accurate. And in this instance, being more accurate means you would win the roll against your opponent. So if you hit them, you also don't get hit. So it's very important that accuracy also helps you not get hurt. Whereas the reckless attack makes you less accurate in exchange for dealing some more damage, which is pretty good.
So it means you're always making decisions, but they can be pretty simple one. But it just means that there's always going to be more play and interest than just saying, well, then I attack. Because what happens a lot, especially with systems that can support creative play and interesting, like, what's the word?
Murder!
Muck duck. Modifiers
Okay,
is what I was going
yep.
for. Combat modifiers and situational modifiers. In reality, a lot of that tends to melt away sometimes when you're just sort of hitting and hitting and hitting, and then it's just like you just end up falling to the lowest common denominator. And in our situation, that's at least being aggressive or a little more cautious.
And what's going to be really fun and exciting in this instance is even level, like lowest starting characters or characters who are completely depleted on their resources will still feel like they can play as their character because these things are available to them. So you'll be able to say, fighter, go take out the minions with your swords, hit 3 at once. We need the guy with the mace to smash their armor in so we can take them down because we're getting bludgeoned. There's tactics just in these, which would be really fun.
Now, there's 2 more.
There are 2 more relating to movement.
So these are the simplest ones. There's 2 more that have, movement involved.
It was almost
One
perfect.
of which is similar to reckless attack, except it's more reckless than reckless attack. You are charging in recklessly. And the other one, and you can move at the same time. You can also use this if you don't reach people in time, like in your move, you can use it as a second part of your move. We'll get to that.
Imagine not explaining that you get to move and use one of these in every turn. That's as simple as that. So that would give you an additional move as part of using it.
Then we have the other one, which is withdraw, which is the equivalent of running away and trying to not get hurt.
Lets you run away.
Trying to
It's
run
important.
away. Okay. These 4 cards will be available to all players from the start, even if you're untrained, even if you don't have a weapon, you'll be able to, in an unarmed fashion or by picking up a rolling pin, charge at someone and attack them. So the stats will be covered by all the same stuff, but for basic combat abilities are how you engage in combat on the very surface level. Then, as we've very briefly addressed, you can unlock more by putting a point in training in something like sword or mace. And let's say you're going down the sword path. That's when you start to get more interesting, where you start to get a lot more of the flavor of picking your hand, or if you're not using cards, obviously just constructing the abilities you want to use. And as you can see, these all have a little symbol or multiple on them. This is the power cost, the spirit cost, as we're currently calling it. So all the cards we've shown so far are free. You can't run out of being able to use them. However, these, as you sort of further dive into your training, are things that use your finite resource that is recharged when you rest.
Have a comfy sleep, a well-rested night's sleep, comfortable place.
Back and ready to
It
ramble.
might not happen if you're sleeping on some sharp, wet rocks outside in the rain, but it may well happen if you're in a comfy tavern.
So the flavor is a very apparent thing as you go through any of these different weapon types. So the mace example, you can use to sort of debuff, disorient your opponents, stagger them so they can't move for the next round, permanently reduce their armor, literally using your
Break
mage
the plates,
to
yeah.
break the plate breaker. Any target you hit permanently loses 2 points of armor if you succeed your combat roll. So the effect only takes place if you succeed. If you fail, theirs succeeds.
Yeah.
Right?
There's going to be a lot of really exciting moments where players in the party are hopefully getting hype over like clutch rolls as to whether or not their tactics are going to come to the fore. Like we need the guy with the mace to plate break. We need that to go off so that the rogue can shank them in the back, you know?
And this is really where Gateway, the gates really open, and it's only just beginning. In every game system or roleplay system I've ever seen or played, shields are just a bonus to armor.
Yep.
Our shields are so much more because you can train in the use of shield. You could train to a very basic level just so you have the ability to fight in a way that your shield's defense can be added to your block value. So yeah, I can have a sword and shield in just with a basic bit of training. My cautious attack is a little more cautious and defensive because I have a shield that I'm actually using. Or as you level up, you could throw your shield. And maybe even there's a later version of this where, like Captain America, you pling it off at such strength that it returns to you. Shield surf to get close to your opponents on your shield.
Yeah, link
shield
it up.
Bash or brace to defend against any ranged attack, and you get +2 to your combat roll. Now, all of us are, again, this is all prototype stuff, but you can see very quickly how shields alone are so much more than just a bonus buff to armor, and shield and sword, shield and mace. They're both very possible.
Shield and wand.
What?
Yeah, you can be a
hang on.
a shield wizard.
Are you telling me? Are you telling
Doesn't
me
that just sound cool?
that I could be Link and just be like, okay, bow, shield, and sword?
Yeah, of course. You could also
And there's no, like,
you could also be
minus-
Gandalf with a sword and a staff.
Oh my god!
You know what? I'm sorry. I'm currently obsessed with the idea of a wizard with a shield, like shooting his wand over the top of the shield. You can't get me!
I love that though. But like, I understand why our game system might not cater to that because it sounds so niche. But we're trying to cater to the construction of your creative play style, and the sky's the limit. If you want to be a barbarian who can wield lightning, if you want to be a thief with telekinesis abilities to amplify some of your skills, you don't have to like take on an extra class. You just start a little path of training to go as far as you want to be able to achieve certain abilities, and it's all going to be laid out so you can find the abilities you want to build your perfect character. You do have to earn it though. It all doesn't come free.
Yeah,
there are
absolutely.
requirements for these cards. There will be limits to how many abilities you can wield at once.
A good example of this is that a card, for example, that is in the swords category that represents a dueling rapier strike that pierces the heart of the foe, an attack like that, that will highly likely have a requirement of your reflexes or your coordination. So if you're trained in skills, but you've entirely dumped into strength and you're wielding this massive Zweihander and you're walking around just trying to cleave people in half, you may not be able to actually access that skill unless you decide to invest some points into training that coordination reflexes. And if you're high enough, if you're strong enough, you can stab someone's heart out like a duelist with a claymore. It would be possible. I don't know if it would be a
silly,
recommended
it would
build,
be stupid.
but it could be possible.
Someone's gonna
If
do
you
it.
want to be Conan the Barbarian fighting with a claymore like a Italian fencer, I'm sure with
Someone-
enough XP you can do it.
Yeah, like the feat to wield a two-handed weapon or change the trait required for a weapon. You know, all of that sort of in the works and conceptually stuff we're playing with. Before we move on, because we've been very conceptual so far, I do want to sort of say one of the greatest strengths of this, and I mean, all of it feels like the greatest strength, the fact that you can like mix and match so thoroughly.
It's
and
so
that
fun
there's
to make.
so much flavor. It really is. But we've also kind of solved the problem we feel of magic systems.
Yes.
It's the same system and both feel cool.
Yeah.
Mages feel cool. Fighters feel cool.
Yeah, I think
You don't feel like I just have attack or power attack. Oh, great. You have what feel like spells, but they're really angled around the flavor of your weapon or training that bring it to life. And then you get into, let's say I'm a wizard. Wait, no.
You're in cleric, I
I'm in
think.
cleric.
Yeah.
Whoops. Whoops, cleric. Healing touch
Yeah.
is my basic cost-free. Heal a point of health to someone I'm contacting. So my base is touching their base if I'm using miniatures, or in Theatre of the Mind, I am contacting. I'm able to touch them. I can heal them. 1 point of HP. Cool. Doesn't cost anything.
Yep.
Cool cleric.
Oh,
bro.
you're going to show some extremely deep and exciting. I just want to say a word on the wizard thing. I really do, because this
Okay.
is I've DM'd for a long time, and I think that I do want to say it's really something that I've seen with so many players across the time, where Magic users feel like they have the buffet at their fingertips of extremely fun and cool things to do, and they either always get to use it all the time, or they're playing a campaign where they have no magic special MacGuffin resource that lets them do it, and then they are useless. It's like a kitten. They have no health for some reason. When they level up, they don't get much health, and they're pathetic. And then, but conversely, martial classes can feel really boring, where they have these really, it's like every turn I attack. So what we've done is basically create a system where both martial and magic classes draw their basically their mana, their expendable resource, which is spirit in our game. They both have the same tool.
I have no idea if that will stay.
Yeah, but they both have the same pool of resources. They just can use them on different things.
Yeah.
It's like your essence, your potency. While a wizard might be shooting a fireball, the barbarian might be whirlwinding with an axe.
Yeah. Now, you have to use one of those abilities in combat if you want to engage in combat. So while we're in this middle ground of cleric, who is typically someone who can fight with a weapon but also has magical abilities, you'll notice that the only free ability in the cleric tier here as a healing ability, there isn't one that is a magic attack, because they're typically going to have a weapon. So let's say I'm a cleric with a mace. I will have a mace. I may be trained in mace, obviously, if I'm using a mace. So at least with 1 point of training, I have an armor debuff mace ability, even with 1 point in training.
Yep.
And then I have those 4 basic attacks that I can use with my mace, right? Now let's move on to...
There's one, I've seen a couple of comments in Twitch chat, and I've noticed the language we've been using can be a little bit confusing.
YouTube
chat,
watching this
YouTube, I forget.
YouTube.
It's years of habit.
I know.
So what I did want to say, just for real clarity, is we mentioned that there's not classes. So we've been saying, like, if you're a cleric.
Yeah.
What we mean by that is that everyone has access to training in these things at any time that is logically reasonable within your campaign. Of course, your GM will say you need to meet a cleric to learn how to be a cleric, for example. But there is no locking in. There's no, like, you're a cleric, so you're now stuck a cleric. There's no, you're a cleric, so you mysteriously can't learn how to swing a two-handed sword. It's free. You can put as many points in whatever you want as you want.
We're building this with the flavor of some of those stereotypes that people love, but the flexibility to be able to pick and choose what parts of it you want to use.
Yes.
Speaking of, wizard.
Whiz.
Now, I'm a wizard with a staff. Oh. But I don't attack with the staff. I'm not going to hit someone. I'm an old, decrepit old man. Now, my free ability is an energy blast, where I use my focus, my weapon focus, as my attack roll. So my default attack will be my skill with that focus, the staff in this case, plus whatever trait it requires, which might be wisdom.
Yep.
It might be
and this is where we talked about that equipment. So a wand, for example, uses different sort of trait requirements as a spell book or as a staff. They all have their own perks. They all have their own pros and cons. They all behave a little bit differently. So you can really choose to flavor your wizard, for example, to be the kind of wizard. Do you want to be sitting there with a book that's terrible up close because you're so easily interrupted and you do terrible damage, but you can fire your spells without line of sight?
At this point in time, what we're sort of working around in terms of like attack ability with wizard weapons, a staff could feasibly be used as a weapon. So there'd be a secondary damage type for the staff that can be used with a melee attack. So if you want to charge with your staff, you can.
But a spell book, not so much.
Or a wand.
Yeah.
What you going to do?
Stick it in their nose.
Yeah, it's not super effective. So, it's all up in the air at the moment, but that's sort of how we're angling it. And then you start getting into the spells. And obviously we want to be comprehensive and have lots of really exciting stuff. But obviously in general, as a wizard, you're going to be spending more of these points to use your abilities.
Chain lightning, for example.
Oh my God.
If you want to stun everything and shoot them with lightning bolts.
I particularly love step through space, which kind of like is an opportunity to yeet.
Goodbye.
You could like appear next to the boss.
Or next to the keg in the tavern.
Yeet out of there. See you, suckers. If your spell is not interrupted. So you still have to succeed your combat roll. And if you're not targeted and you have that ability and you spend your 2 points of spirit, you just get out of there. I'm out, guys.
I am gone now.
So,
But that's enough cards. They're all prototypes. They're all subject to change. And you don't even need the cards. The cards we use in-house because it's really easy to visualize and we love the reference. And we'll be using them on Tabletop Time Roleplay. But in reality, they are play aids and you can just have a list of the abilities and reference them in a book or in a sheet or in a PDF or whatever you want to call on a parchment handwritten if you want to. I don't really care.
I don't want to talk
You can fax it to someone and read it on fax paper. What are you doing? I've got it built over here.
Oh, you do too. Okay. Well, hang on. That was we're going to segue to that. Remember the plan? Because the plan is, let's say we get to combat. There are 3 ways to play out the combat.
Whoa, that's really cool. Do you want to tell me more about that?
Do I?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it. Well, first of all, you can do combat the way we have done fairly often with Cogent. You can spatially communicate how far an opponent or opponents are away from you and just sort of keep track of that in whatever way is suitable. But, it's not unheard of. You can just sort of say, yeah, these 2 people are, 5 meters away while one person is right behind you, right? And you just play it out that way. You can certainly do theater of the mind with or without cards. Like there's a lot of flexibility here. Then you can go at the other end of the spectrum and go really literal and use a tape measure and characters, miniatures, and use your big table that I know you've spent a long time on with your houses and rivers and terrain and all this cool stuff, feeling more like sort of proper wargaming with measuring and movement. All will be supported under the same system. We're going to build it to support both. We also are building it to support what we're referring to as a bit of an abstract mode of play, which is going to be particularly useful to demonstrate a little bit about movement and range, which we'll share with you now.
So we have, for clarity, theater of the mind, crunchy movement-based system with distances, as sort of an advanced way of playing, and then a middle ground, an abstracted movement system. That's interesting. I think we should.
Let's do it.
We're back into the role play that we had.
The Kobold Cave.
Remember the Kobold Cave?
The old door that I knocked down in our last session.
You blasted it down into splinters, and in front of you, you see 2 kobolds sort of wildly pulling up their swords and heading towards you, dressed in beautiful barrels. Look like a bit of rudimentary armor. And behind them, a bit of a masterly enforcer, a larger beast of a brute, shouting orders as they wake from their slumber. Now, how do we do combat? And how does a GM fit into this? Well, Gateway Roleplay is designed to be really fun for the players and a collaborative play experience where instead of doing sort of 100% the same system where the GM is effectively controlling all these little players with little abilities. Instead, we have this really cool system where the GM is controlling villains or leaders and their minions, and they operate a little bit differently. So the minions, these diminutive little monsters and things that you'll fight along your way, they always go first. And going first is going last in our system. So there's no initiative, no tracking of rolling a whole bunch of dice and writing these orders out really slowly every single time and losing signal.
Yeah.
That's what happens when I think of initiative. My brain just goes zzz and it disappears.
I know, right?
So
it was a good save. Yep.
Instead, the way that it works, it would be good. Yep, okay.
Yeah, okay.
Instead, the way that it works is the minions always declare their intent first. So there's a movement phase where we all get to make a move. The minions move first. Then the heroes get to react to that movement and they get to take their moves, sort of planning around and working together. But after the heroes have moved, then the leader or the villain of the encounter. There won't always be a leader in every encounter, but when there are, they act last, able to behave in these evil, conniving, horrible, like Disney villain ways that the players are really going to hate. Always reacting to the player's actions last and always having the upper hand.
Now, of course, being very flavor and fun driven, we fully intend for all of the minions and all of the leaders to have a whole bunch of different cards and options, like in terms of like abilities that you may not have available to you. Really interesting things you'll come across in your adventures that will feel exciting and different and unpredictable to players.
But worth mentioning, GMs, don't fret. You're not going to have 15 piles of cards all around you, just like a player does. No, there'll be a limited selection that'll be on the monster's stat sheet. So if you have like 3 monsters in the encounter, you only need to look at the 3 pages. It will say everything you need there. You're
Or if
not
you
sort of
have
juggling their
5
blunt weapon
kobolds,
pile with
you might
their-
have 1 kobold minions
Exactly.
card
Yeah.
with their 3 different ability options.
Yeah.
So we're going to jump into combat.
Sure.
To provide an example, we have not rehearsed this because one cannot really rehearse combat in that way. So this is a totally candid and fun little jump into this. Bear with us. But in starting, we should probably just do the movement phase and explain a little bit about this abstract range targeting system that we've alluded to.
We can certainly do that. I would just like to quickly bring up my references for these monsters because we don't have nice cards to show you, but we do have internal documents that document the internals.
It was just asked in YouTube chat, can you PvP in the system? The answer is 100% yes. In fact, if the GM so chooses, they can build a full character, PC or villain, with the same sort of character sheet, with the same cards, maybe even with some cards that players don't have access to. And on top of that, you can fight someone else because the system all works the same. So you can PvP in the same way with another player as you might against a villain using your cards. And in fact, I personally think this would be a really fun standalone little game to play in a lunch break to be like, hey, let's bash it out. Your character versus mine, and get your hand or your abilities and your character sheet and just smash it out. Like literally you can totally do a self-contained little combat session because there are elements of it that, especially if you're using cards, will feel a little bit like, a TCG.
A dueling game.
Or
It's not exactly like I hit, I deal damage. I hit, I miss, I miss, I hit. I hit.
Yeah.
That vibe is in there.
Like
because if you hit,
competitive
they get hit.
strategic arena battle. I love it. Okay, so movement and our abstract idea.
Okay, so basically we're using the abstraction system. Now there will be a more granular advanced rules later that explains the actual distances if you would like to measure and use tape measures and beautiful scenery and all that. But we've developed it for real ease of use for people who have limited space, also people who play online. So the way to do that is we have an abstracted movement system where there are 4 steps of movement. Those being contact, short distance, medium distance, and long distance. We also have a little plus, and that basically means long plus. Anything that has long plus can just do long as many times. If you're 10 tiles away, you can shoot them with a bow. It's fine. Movement, you simply move 1 step closer. So if you're doing abstracted movement and you're long distance away, you would then go to medium distance away with your movement. So you can do that online by play by post or by Discord call or whatever. Or if you've got tiles or hexes or grids, you can simply use, in the case we're using here, a single hex represents 1 distance.
There you go. So being side by side, my 2 characters would be considered was the
contacting each other. Yep.
So that's that little green C. This goblin over here, this kobold, would be considered long distance.
Medium distance,
medium
in fact,
distance.
because you've got to count the first one as contact.
So that's contact. That's short range.
And then medium.
That's medium range. And then one further, or definitely this villain over here.
Long plus.
Long plus. So that's our abstracted way to sort of do it. And you can do it with a movement thing and actual measurements. But that's a really... We've been playtesting with this and it's really fun and really clear and removes a lot of the confusion and stuff.
So I have a really important YouTube question here, which is why is move and 1 word on that card? And the answer is because all the cards say prototype on them. So everything you see here today is a prototype.
It does
early testing.
literally say... prototype.
Yeah, there it is. So they're not. This is not the finished product at all. These were cut on a laser cutter.
Yes,
on
nice
printer
looking.
paper.
These are goddamn
Printed and then
nice
cut with a
looking
laser cutter.
prototype cards. Printed on a printer and laser cut. But yeah, let's jump into it. So we've covered the abstract movement thing. Let's play. Movement.
Awesome. All right. Well, as I control the minions move first, and they're looking like that wizard. Seems very soft and stabbable. Ooh. So they're both going to move closer to the wizard.
Okay.
Big lad at the back is going to take a step closer too.
Well, knowing her companion is threatened and seeing the greedy eyes of these kobolds staring at this frail old man next to her, my warrior princess is going to step in front of her nobly.
Very brave.
And he is going to stay there with his pants gently moistening.
Okay, against these tiny kobolds.
Yeah.
Well, I will say in this instance, we would now get to the movement step of a leader if I had one. But in this encounter, there's no leader. This is just the guards at the front entrance. Yeah, there's a bigger one. He's just a bigger monster. He's not a leader. So I have no advantage in this fight in the sense of a leader with special abilities. So we now go to abilities.
All right. Kobolds first.
All right, so my kobolds have an ability called Mobile Strike. And the way that works is, as part of their ability, they actually get to make an additional move. It's similar to charging. So they are both going to be using... It's worth mentioning all damage rolls are rolled simultaneously. So you sort of declare your actions, you resolve the actions, and then the fight happens, so to speak. So both of these are both going to use their Mobile Strike to move a tile closer to our fighter.
Oh boy.
And then they can make an attack.
Now, we've been doing this free round of movement, which I'm currently now, I have my turn to do that.
This is your ability step. This is your ability step.
Oh, yeah, it is.
We've done our free movement. Now you've got to play your card.
Thank you. Sorry, I jumped the gun there. Okay, now I can choose to attack because they're actually in contact with me.
But see the difference. Because I had to act first, you get to react to that. You might have used a charge card because you needed to move up to stab me, but instead, you're going to not do that, I'm guessing, and do something clever and tricksy.
That means I have more options, actually, because as a fighter with a lot of melee sword cards, I have more options that are based on being in contact with my opponents. I'm just going to keep it simple, though, because wide slashes, my sword ability, allows me to target multiple opponents. I'm going to keep that roll we've been talking about. I've got 3 skill, 3
You got
in
6
the
dice?
attribute, so I've got 6 dice.
So you're going to target them both?
Yeah.
Okay, which gives you -1 to your dice because it's -1 for each additional target you're going to attempt to hit with wide slashes.
So she has 5 dice to a
5
combat
dice.
roll.
I don't have any dice over here because you
You
took all the
literally
dice.
don't
I
have any
literally
physical
don't have
dice.
any
Yeah,
dice.
here, take
so I have
these
a question
dice.
for you. What is the wizard going to do?
That's a good question. So he's feeling protected, and now's his opportunity. He's going to hit hard quick, feeling immediately threatened. He's going to use his 2 power ability,
Oh, my
Chain Lightning.
And he's only got 6 power, so...
Well, that's using a third of his power, but he's hoping it's going to be really effective.
Okay. Well...
Wipe him out quick,
Have
guys.
I got news for you? So these kobolds have Murderous Strike. They have 5 dice. Now, Jazza, this is just a fun example of how quickly, of course, we're working on the game and developing the game. You haven't heard this before, but kobolds got a little tweak. They got a little buff in the last couple of days.
Thanks for letting me know, Dave.
So they have a trait called Strength in Numbers, which means for each additional kobold that is adjacent to the person they're stabbing, they get +1 to their combat roll. So if there's 6 of them around you, they are going to be murdering you.
Love that. Side note, just take note how quickly that was added and how quickly it might be removed. We don't know. This is all in development.
We're not removing it. The kobolds are thanking him. We're keeping it. Of course, it could be changed.
Yeah.
So I
We're
have 6
playing hard
dice.
and fast with our
They both have
games,
6
folks.
dice.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks. Oof. Okay. My fighter's combat roll was 3. Okay. Now, all of these combat rolls are against... actually, your kobolds are against my fighter. The wizard is attacking the kobold. Their rolls will still count as the defense against the wizard, even though they're not attacking the wizard.
right.
Okay. So let's give him his combat roll of 6. Okay. He doesn't get a plus or negative to his combat roll. He got 4. Fighter got 3. Wizard got 4.
Which one was he targeting?
He was
This is
using...
important because I rolled 5 successes on one of the
Did you?
kobolds.
Okay. I haven't used the wizard cards before. Stun any enemies adjacent to the target you hit along with your target.
Yeah, if you hit.
Oh, that's the stun.
Yeah.
I am targeting this one with a staff. Shooting through the side.
You picked well.
Okay.
The barrel hat one had 5 successes. I rolled super high.
Whoa.
The other one rolled 3. So because that one, so that's the defensive roll, but we actually tied the fighter and that kobold. So we roll again just to determine the hour. So 3 is my defense.
And a match is
Quick
a
roll off.
reroll.
I got 1 success.
I got 2.
Okay, so the way we now play out damage, because it all happens simultaneously, is You managed to fend off one of the kobolds with your fighter. The other one, though, slipped in a knife. So let's resolve that damage. So you have 2 armor, I believe, in your sort of half breastplate.
Yep.
They do 2 damage, but they have the trait of Pierce 1. So piercing 1 means they can negate 1 point of armor. So you take 1 damage from
damage.
that little kobold.
6 HP. That 1 damage hurts.
Absolutely. But the kobold that failed, the kobold has 1 defense. How much damage does your sword do?
3.
So it takes 2 damage. It is now halved its health.
Okay. That hurt it.
Yes.
And Wizard hasn't applied his damage yet.
And because you used wide slashes, you were able to damage all the people in the party. Usually you can only attack the thing you're targeting. That's good.
I like that.
And you know what else? That was the same one that you targeted with the wizard.
Yep.
And the wizard succeeded. What's the wizard spell do?
The spell not only does the damage that he does, which let's say
which is 3. He's got a staff.
plus 2 damage with his focus, his his weapon focus ability. Plus 2 focus damage.
That is terrifying. What? That is terrifying. He does 5 damage?
Yeah.
Okay, so he does 5 damage, instantly frying this kobold, and I believe there is additional text about him stunning.
Yep. So the one adjacent to him, who is not dead,
Yep.
is 2 points of stun applied to him.
So that means -2 off his next dice roll.
Very nice.
Okay.
We bedazzled him. So he's not injured, but he's
going
in trouble.
Well, like comic book
While
style.
his body
Electricity is coursing
explodes.
through him. Yeah, that wasn't good.
No.
So, do we want to do a second round of combat? Or
Let's
do we?
do it. Let's do it. Let's do one more round.
One more round.
Now, I want to point out in this next round, we have a free movement phase like
Yep.
before, except that this kobold here is touching the base with my fighter, or
Mm-hmm.
in Theatre of the Mind would be in contact.
Mm-hmm.
They cannot move away from each other unless they have an ability.
Actually,
in the ability turn,
they can't move if they're adjacent.
Not in their free
if
turn.
they're in contact, in their free action.
in the free action. So the free action is movement if you're not engaged with someone you're in contact
In
with.
contact with someone.
Yeah. Cool. So there are only 2 people that can free
So
move
that
in
monster
this
at the
round.
back is, I'm going to say, going to take
go
a step
first.
backwards.
Oh, really?
Yep.
So
They're kind of terrified about the kobold that just exploded.
Okay, all right. Wizard is feeling more confident, so he steps off to the side there.
Okay, and now we declare our
Now we
actions.
declare our actions.
The kobold once again is going to use mobile strike.
Yep.
Okay.
This one at the front.
This one at the front. Now, mobile strike is you may move and then attack, which allows it to move even though it's in contact because it's part of the action. So he's going to target your wizard.
Oh no!
And he's going to slide over there and see that soft belly of the wizard and try and just sink one in there.
Oh no! All right, guy at the back. Doesn't
What are
have a
your
card
abilities?
can
He
play.
can't attack. He's
Okay.
just at the back.
All right. Now my fighter, knowing that this might be not ideal for the wizard, who is more frail, has no armor, so a bad roll or a poor combat maneuver could actually really hurt him. And he also has less HP. So she is going to use a precise thrust.
Okay.
She is going to guarantee or try her best to make sure her sword finds its home. Meanwhile, the wizard is going to step through space and yeet next to the dude off in the distance. Not next to, but like I'm going
Okay,
to say
over
right.
there.
No,
All right.
here, right here.
All right. So after this,
Not
he's
so
only going to have
close
2
that-
spirit left.
That's true.
That's fine.
That's a choice I'm willing to make.
Okay.
Let's get spicy.
All right. So
Okay.
my combat roll is 5 dice at
Okay.
your wizard. I got 2 successes. Your wizard's combat roll is 6 dice.
He yeets.
You
my
got 6
friend.
successes. So he teleports away. Blink. And now my defensive roll was 2 because that's what I rolled on my combat roll. So your swordsman is rolling 6 plus 1, I believe, with
Yes.
your precise strike.
Because precise strike gives
Yep.
me +1 to my sword's weapon skill in my combat roll. I hit the
You very
crap
hit them.
out of you.
And with your 3 damage reduced by 1 from their armor, they take 2 and they are teetering on half health.
Nice.
Very stabbed.
Okay. Let's do it. I reckon there's one more round of combat in us.
Okay. Do you want that?
I want to see this through to the end.
Okay, last round of combat. Seeing a juicy target, the big boy is going to take a step towards the wizard.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy.
And the kobold can't move.
Okay. All right, and now we get to combat. Mm-hmm. All right, you go first.
The wizard chose not to move, so I am going to use...
I forgot to move the wizard, but let's say he chose not
Let's
to.
say he chose not to
Yeah.
for dramatic effect.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's going to... They're both going to use their mobile attack,
Okay.
which allows the Grumpy to get up close and personal with the wizard.
This was foolish of me. I was a fool. Okay. All right, let's do this. Sword combatant. Now, I've burned one of my spirit from my sword combatant. Otherwise, I've just done a normal strike. I think it's time to get creative. I am going to use rapid strikes from my sword fighter, which will allow me to roll twice and pick the highest of the rolls. The highest of the two rolls will act as my defense.
Okay.
And if both of my rolls are higher, I deal damage twice. I just want to knock you out, right?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, my wizard is going to use a flame burst.
Okay.
Okay, let's do this.
Well, you are getting hit with a much more powerful strike from the larger beast.
Uh-oh. I feel like I might have killed a wizard. Uh-oh.
All right. So I'll roll my dice for him. He has 7 dice.
Oh, no.
This
was
large
a
mace.
fool's
But luckily, I
errand.
only rolled 2 successes. So we may as well resolve that little
Yeah.
roll off.
Let's do it. Okay.
6
All right,
dice.
I've got 6, yeah. You got 2 successes. I got 4.
You hit him.
Boom.
All right.
3 damage, 1 burn.
3. So you've applied a burn, which means he's going to take damage every single turn.
Mm-hmm.
Something rather funny. Yeah.
Now, every single turn until when?
It's a great question. We haven't decided yet. The game is a prototype. We haven't decided how you put out fire yet. So currently you stay on fire.
Nice.
Maybe until he jumps in the water.
Currently, I like this system. So we'll see how
We'll see how we
balances
go with the burning to death thing.
it. Okay.
So you are wielding. This is an interesting thing, though. You're wielding the level 1 stave, which does 3 damage at range, but 1 damage when you're close. So your damage is negated by his armor.
Crap.
So yeah,
The burn.
you do hit him. So he's on fire, but he doesn't actually take any damage. Now the little kobold stabs, which happen
Bummer. That
simultaneously,
felt
but
cool
we're
until it
separating.
didn't.
Well, he's on fire.
Yeah, that's true.
He just didn't get immediately hurt. You kind of
Does
blasted
the
it.
fire apply a damage next turn?
Yeah, next turn it starts damaging you.
All right.
3 successes against your lovely fighter.
Okay, and I'm using rapid strikes. I'm rolling twice. 2 weapon skill rolls. My first roll was 3, and then I'm going to roll again. My second roll was 3.
Okay.
Is that a reroll?
They
What did
got
you
a
get?
3.
Okay, so I'm going to reroll again.
You hit. I got no successes.
Okay, cool. I got 3 and 3.
You deal weapon damage twice.
Both were higher. Deal damage twice.
Overkilling this kobold, stabbing it twice and slaughtering
So
it. It
dead.
drops bleeding to the ground.
Super dead.
Cool.
Okay, but
I think we're going to end it there.
yeah,
I think that's
so.
enough.
Wizard is legitimately in trouble. So even though I did some explosive killing and I got to feel like a hero, I also have a character who is a wizard who has 1 spirit point left and is adjacent to an enemy he can't run away from, and someone who needs to get in there very quick if he's going to survive. So you can see how being bold can turn things upside down very quickly. But the big thing we're proud of here is it's not swingy. That being tedious and problematic, tenuous. I went
Tenuous,
to say
tedious.
Not
Was that tedious? I
It
didn't
was
think it
not
was
tedious.
tedious.
But that being tenuous comes down to my choices, not rolls being so swingy or damage being stupidly swingy, where you accidentally kill too quickly or die too quickly.
Yeah.
It's all down much more to strategy and your build and your progression. So that's our little demo. A very unplanned demo, but one I think sort of captures a bit of the flavor of gateway roleplay as we're trying to develop it.
So it's brought up by the live stream, which means it's worth mentioning for the video. For clarity, the order of action, the order of operation is the minions move, then the heroes move. And then if there are leaders or villains, they move. After everyone's moved, you then declare your actions, which starts with the minions, then the heroes, and then the villain. and then in the same order you just resolve them basically.
Yep.
So it's pretty much like, it sounds a little bit like there's a lot of steps, but it flows really smoothly when you know how to actually, you just go like, yep, I go, you go. It's
Cool.
GM goes, players go.
And
GM
the
goes, players go.
can work together to strategize and role play and be like,
Brother, help me. I am wounded. I need you to use your shield to block their next attack.
you get the idea. So that, my friends, is our prototype. So prototype, lots of asterisks. It's very work in progress. We've put in a lot of time and a lot of thought and effort to this so far. And we're going to be putting in a lot more because we're intending to play this every week moving forward and work on it actively outside of our gameplay sessions and stories here on Tabletop Time Roleplay every week moving forward. We want to turn this into something that can be amazing and support endless, incredible stories. So it may change shape substantially from what you've seen, but there are core elements here that I hope, help you capture the vision of what we're putting down. And I hope you're picking it up because it's very exciting to us and hopefully to you.
Thank you.
Again, if you're interested in this and you want to get gritty and have feedback and are interested in getting involved, Patreon. Absolutely, Patreon. We do weekly updates. We take the feedback. We love the novels some of our most enthusiastic patrons wrote. There were a few of them today from yesterday's session, and I've read them and I love them and I can't wait to talk to them about it. We also have our weekly after parties where we chat about it all live on Discord. So consider becoming a patron. It's a huge support. Or go to gatewayroleplay.com and see how to learn more. That's it, Dave. We've shown people what the thing we've been working on.
Yeah, we needed a timekeeper though, I think.
I think we did. I think we went over time.
We went very over time.
But we're doing this once.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining. Feedback in the comments because we'll come back to this video. Otherwise, let's open the gates.
Is that what we're saying? I like that. Okay.
Okay.
Open the gates in a world.
Thanks for watching.